everyone, welcome back to another video. So today I'm back again with Johanna Basford's Small Victories, and I have my Black Widow swatch chart. If you saw my last video, you know that I wanted to start a series where I test out several different sets of the most popular budget colored pencils in this coloring book. And in my last video, I asked you what other sets you wanted to see me try out. Just going through some of the comments on my Facebook page, as well as the comments on my YouTube videos, a lot of you suggested that I use the Black Widow's neck, so that's what we're going to do today. If you check the description box down below, you'll find links down there to everything that you see me use in this video, as well as links to my email list, my Facebook group, my Etsy shop, and my Patreon if you'd like to support me there. I also now have channel membership. If you would like to find more information out about that, you can click the join button down below this video. So this is the adorable little house I did in my last video. This was done with Arrtx pencils. So this was the very first one in this series that I plan on doing. If you would like to see that, I will make sure it's linked in the upper right hand corner. So today I would like to do another one of these little images on this page, and I was thinking of doing this one here. I think it's super cute. I would like to test out several different budget sets of colored pencils and use this page to do so. So this way we can see all the different sets of pencils, one right up next to the other. So this is my swatch chart for the Black Widow colored pencil set. There are now 180 colors in this set. I did put all of these in color family order. It is two separate swatch charts because there are so many colors, but they're all in color family order. And this chart is available in my Etsy shop. All of the names and the numbers are already all there for you, and all you have to do is fill it in. So it makes it really easy on you. Now, for those of you that are just discovering this video and you're not familiar with the Black Widow pencils, there are quite a few different sets, and the one benefit of the Black Widow colored pencils is that you can purchase them as you are able to afford them. So you can start with the main set, which is the original set, and it comes with 24 colors in that set, which is a really nice selection of colors. Now, if you look at my swatch chart, you can see that I do label BW for the ones that did come in the original set. So for instance, this color here, Ladybug, it says BW 89, and so that color was included in the first original set. You can then get the second set, and that set would be the Scorpion set, which has another 24 colors in it. There's also the Cobra set, and those were the first three original sets that were available, all including 24 colors in each one. And then they came out with a skin tone set with darker colors and a skin tone set with lighter colors, and each one of those have 12 colors in them. Then they released another set with 48 colors, which is called the Monarch set. That one comes with lots of beautiful pastels. And then the last one was the Dragon set, which had another 36 colors. But if you had all of the sets, they end up totaling 180 colors. And you can see on here, these colors are absolutely beautiful. I've got tons of Black Widow coloring tutorials, a lot in World of Flowers. I know that these pencils work beautifully in that book, but we're going to see today how they perform in Small Victories. So for those of you that don't have these sets, let me go ahead and show you what they do look like. They do have black barrels, and then they do have color dip tips. Now, as the sets were released, they changed them up just a little bit, and so some of them are going to have longer dipped tips, and some of them are going to have the shorter dipped tips. And they did re-release some of the original sets to make them look a little bit more like one another. When I do also have a video on that, I'll link that in the upper right hand corner if you'd like to see it. But look at all of these gorgeous colors. You just get so many colors in here, and they're all so beautiful. This case is one of the bigger cases, of course, because I had to fit 180 colors in here. But this is definitely one of my favorite sets. I'll just flip through here so you can see all of the colors. Here's all of our browns and greens, blues, purples, pinks, some reds, some oranges. The oranges continue up here into the yellows, and then of course I always start with white, and in the Black Widow set you do get two whites. So let me go ahead and just show you the pencil. They do have the color dipped tip. They are a hexagonal pencil. They have the name right here, and the ones that are written in gold really stand out nicely off the pencil. And as you can see, it does say Monarch here too, as well as has the MN, which stands for Monarch. And then here is the tip of the pencil, and you can see that they are a black barrel all the way through. Even the wood has a black coating on it, which I find really cool. Now, as I said, we're going to do this little house right here. And so we do need to choose some colors. I really want to do a pink house. I know that's a little bit out of the ordinary, but I want it to look like a cute little fairy house. Look at all these gorgeous pinks that are included in this set. So we just need to pick some really pretty colors. And one of my favorites in this set is actually this plum pudding. I think I want like a dark, bright, vibrant, hot pink house with maybe a little bit of a highlight in it, but I definitely want to use the plum pudding. I think I also want to use the bubble gum. And then we got to go with something that's quite a bit lighter. So plum pudding, bubble gum, and then we're going to come down here to Bliss. I think that's what I'm going to use. So let me go ahead and pull those. Here is the plum pudding, and then the next one was the bubblegum. Now I do have all of these in here in the color family order that I put them into, so it makes it very easy to go ahead and pull the colors. And you will notice by looking at these, depending on the set that they came in, they all have a different color writing on them, so they're not all going to look identical. Here's the Bliss, and here's the bubblegum. So some of you may have noticed that the tips on these two colors look almost identical, and you know from seeing the swatch chart earlier that these colors are not the same. You can tell by looking at the leads of the pencils that they do look very different. So if you've been watching my videos for quite some time, you know that when I'm using a budget set of pencils, I usually hold the pencils in my hand according to the order that I want to use them when I'm coloring. So I'll put my darkest first, then my mid-tone, and then my lightest. And so this way I'm not grabbing the wrong color and then realizing after the fact. So I'm going to take my lightest color. I am going to go in a circular motion and just lay this down on the inside of the house. And you can already see that the color is laying down right away. And then I'm going to go to my mid-tone and I'm going to layer this one right over my lightest color. And it is blending in there and layering right over the other color very, very nicely. Okay, so that was my second layer. Now I'm going to come in with my darkest color, which was the plum pudding. And I'm going to see how much depth I can create with this color. But look how nicely this is laying down. Oh, wow. This color is definitely going right down there. And then over here around these little pieces of stone around the door, I want to make sure I go around those because I want to make sure that they look like they're laying over the house. But this color is definitely laying right over those other colors. Now I'm going to come back with the Bliss, which was my lightest color. I'm going to go in a circular motion and try to blend all of these colors together and see how smooth I can get these to look. Let's see if they perform as nicely as the Arrtx pencils did in this book. The Arrtx pencils were absolutely wonderful on this paper. I might need a little bit more of my mid-tone to pull that color in a little bit. Sometimes when the colors are really far away from one another in value, it does make it a little bit more difficult to pull the color into the other, but you're going to find that with most colored pencil sets. So I'm just going in a circular motion over where I laid that darkest color, and I'm pulling the color around and into the other colors. Now this is my lightest color and I'm going to come back and lay this right over the top and try to pull some of these colors in. And they seem to be blending rather nicely, but I would say that they're not blending together as nicely as the Arrtx pencils did. And again, if you haven't seen that video, I will have it linked in the upper right hand corner, but I feel like with the Arrtx pencils, I was able to lay down a lot more color. I feel like with these, I've laid down what, maybe 4 or 5 layers? And these are blending okay, but they're not blending like the Arrtx pencils did. I mean, it still looks nice. It's very, very pretty, but let me try a little something here. I'm going to grab an even darker color and see if I can create a little bit more depth with a darker color. The darkest color we used was the plum pudding. So the plum pudding is right here, and if I wanted to go darker, I would have to go to the ruby rose, or I can add a little bit of purple. Let me go ahead and grab the lavender and see if adding a little bit of purple in with the plum pudding makes it stand out just a little bit more. And I'd like to see how well it layers over that color. Okay, so here's the test, y'all. Okay, so I'm laying this down and I'm using pretty light pressure. And I just want to see how much this will change it up. I'm going to come down the side of the house I'm going to try to add a little bit of this lavender right down in here. You could see that the color is laying down right over the top of that other color, and it is changing it up quite a bit. And I find that with these pencils, the color is laying down, but I feel like I have to use a little bit harder pressure than I did with the Arrtx. The Arrtx felt very different when laying them down, and I was able to lay the color right down over the other colors, and you can see a difference immediately. Now I'm going to lay a little bit of this right outside this little window because, again, I want the window to look like it is laying on top of the house. Okay, so I think that's good for the inside of the house. Now we do need to choose a color for the tiny little roof of the house and then the door and the stones. So I grabbed my color wheel because I really want that little door and the roof to stand out. So if you look here at this little triangle, you could see that it says triad here, and then it has arrows showing you which colors that are equally spaced out. And if you use those colors, it will create quite a bit of contrast. So what I really want to do is I think I want to go with some blue greens, and maybe on something else I'll use some yellow oranges. I want to match up this blue green section here of the color wheel to the colors on my swatch chart. So it doesn't look like we have a whole lot of choices here on the swatch chart. But let me go ahead and go blue daisy, blue heaven, and sky. So I think what I'm going to do for these little stones that are going around here, I'm just going to use the blue daisy and I'm going to straight color those. That was one layer. Now I'm going around and doing the second layer, and the color is layering right over the top of that first layer very nicely. Let's see if we can go around and create a third layer. Okay, so this color is going down very nicely, and the color is laying right down over the previous layers. So that's 3 layers. Let's see if we could start here at the bottom and do 4 layers and darken it up just a bit. Okay, so that's laying down very nicely, and it is still getting darker. Let's try 5 layers. I feel like the color is still laying down and it is still getting darker. I think that is plenty dark, and that looks super cute and really stands off of that pink. Okay, so now I have the sky and the blue heaven, and I'm gonna use the sky. This is like my absolute favorite color. If you've watched my videos before, you will know that I always pull this color. Especially when I'm coloring flowers. Okay, so that's 1 layer of the sky. Now I'm going to use the blue heaven to go over these lines and create a little bit of depth here in the door. So this would count for my second layer, but I'm not going all the way over and layering the color all the way over that original color. I am just going over the lines and pulling it in a little bit. So now I'm going to take my sky and I'm going to go over the whole thing one more time. Now I'm going to take my darkest color, which is the blue daisy. This is the one that I used here on the outside, and I'm just going to use it to go over these lines. And these blues seem to be laying down a lot better than the pinks did for some odd reason, or maybe just because it's a smaller space, I don't know. I'm going to use this to straight color this little knob on the door. Okay, let me grab my mid-tone and see how well this blends that color out. Okay, so it is blending the color out pretty nicely and pulling it in towards that lighter color. Let me see if I can lay down a little bit more of the sky just to brighten up those highlighted areas there. And then I want to keep a little bit of the white of the paper right here around the door to create a little bit of a highlight right there, just because I colored all of these with the darker color and just straight colored them. I think it'll add a little bit of something to that door. So now we need to do the little window. I think I'm going to use my darkest color, the blue daisy, and then I think I'm going to take my mid-tone and do the bottom half of the window just to make it look a little bit different. And then I'm going to grab my darkest color again and go over this a second time, and then maybe a little bit down here. Then I need to do the inside, so I'm going to lay a little right there. And then I think I'm going to try to test this out here and use my sky to see if I could pull that color up towards the top. And that worked really nicely, so let me do that on the other side. I'm going to add a tad bit of the darkest color, the Blue Daisy. And then again, for this side, I'm going to pull it through with the sky. And that worked really, really well. I was able to pull that color down really nicely. And it only took a couple layers, and it looks really nice. And it stands off that pink really nicely as well. Now for the roof of the house, I may try that same thing. So let me see here where I want to lay the darkest of my color. I think I'm going to start down here. Since I have a really sharp tip on my pencil, I'm going to come right down here on this line and see how these pencils do with that. I'm going to add a little bit right here at the top and try really hard to stay right on those lines. And because these pencils are a little bit of a harder pencil, it works really well to be able to do that. That probably wouldn't work so well if I was using something like a Prismacolor, but now I'm going to use the sky and try to do the same thing and pull this color down and into that darkest color. And I don't know that it worked as well in that bigger space as it did right here in the window, so I'm going to use my mid-tone now, which was the Blue Heaven, and I'm going to add a little bit of that and pull it into my lighter color, which works out much, much better. So let me pull my darker color now down into this side of the roof, and then I need to come over here and pull this up a little bit into that lightest color. And then I need to come over here and do the same thing on the edge of the roof, and then I'm going to pull it up just a little bit with my mid-tone, and then I'm going to use the sky to pull it all together. Oh, how pretty. I love this color combination. Okay, so remember when we looked at the color wheel and we were trying to choose a triad of colors to create contrast? We were right here with the red violets is what we used in the house, and then we used the blue greens to make the door and the roof of the house and this little window really pop off the house. And the third color we have are yellow oranges. Now I'm thinking I could use some of those yellow oranges with some deeper, more dramatic oranges. So if I take my swatch chart and I look over here where I've got the yellow oranges, I've got quite a bit of colors right in here that I could choose from to make some really pretty flowers. But I do want a really pretty highlight color as well. And you could see that if you look at the yellow orange section here on the color wheel, that you do have many different values of the color. So all of these colors in here, from maybe here to here, would apply. So I think that I want to use this mango because it's still really bright and pretty. And then I need something that is quite a bit darker in value to go with that. I might start with the gold dust. So the gold dust and the mango and the cream. Okay, so here's the cream, here's the mango, and here is the gold dust. Now I did say that I wanted to add something that was much deeper in with those colors. Now here's the gold dust, which is still fairly light. And so I think I'm gonna go ahead and grab the serpent as well, which is a gorgeous orange. Okay, so I'm not going to grab the orange yet, and the spaces in these flowers are super, super small. So I'm just going to start with the three colors. I am going to start with the cream, and I'm just going to make an initial layer in each one of these petals. Now I have the mango, and we're going to see how this color lays down. Okay, so the mango may not be dark enough. It is laying down very nicely right over that other color, but the cream is a super, super light color. Thinking maybe I should have gone darker with these. So I'm just adding this gold dust on the outer edge of these petals. On these, I'm adding them towards the top, but this color is definitely not going to create all that depth and dimension that I like to see when I'm coloring. The color is laying down nicely, but the colors are just not dark enough. So let's go ahead and grab that serpent, which is a much darker shade of orange. And these spaces are so small that I'm thinking maybe I should have just straight colored some of these. So the color is layering nicely over these other colors. It's just that you really can't see these other colors because they are so super light. So I'm just going to go over the edge of this petal here and pull this color down a little bit more. And I'm just trying to layer this color over the other colors to darken it up. And even still, this color is not laying down the way that I want it to lay down. Okay, that made it a little bit darker. Now, a lot of times when you're using oranges, if they won't get as dark as you want them to be, you can grab a brown and really darken them up. So I think they look a little bit better, but they still don't look the way that I want them to look. And we all know with colored pencils, it's all about layers, layers, layers. Let's go ahead and grab the swatch chart. And that color was Serpent. And you could see it's darker than the other colors I chose, but it's still not super, super dark. So let's go down here, and I think I'm gonna grab the Sundown. Okay, I have the Sundown, and I'm gonna see how well this layers over those other colors. Oh, and that layers Oh, now I could really see it. Okay, that's much better. So let me just use this to go around some of these petals. This will help me create a lot of that extra depth I want to see. Okay, this color made a huge difference, and it's still laying down right over those other colors. And now I think I can grab one of those lighter colors and really pull the color down. Now I have the gold dust, and I'm going to try to blend some of these colors out, and let's see how well they blend. I don't know that this color is blending out the other colors very well. Okay, there we go. So I don't know if you can see this. If I continue to keep going over the color, it is pulling the color up and blending it. But if I were to compare it to the Arrtx, I feel like the Arrtx pencils did so with much more ease. Now let me just say though, these Black Widows are actually one of my favorite pencils, but every single pencil set is not going to perform the same on certain paper. And you can see that this one is pulling the color around, but I still don't feel like I have the depth and dimension that I want. And right here on this petal, I still have a very harsh line from my darkest color that this lighter color, the gold dust, is not blending out. But I feel like when I used the Arrtx pencils, I had to do a lot less quote unquote fixing. I feel like if I wanted to have a lot more depth and dimension in these flowers, I would probably have to, like I said earlier, grab a brown to go ahead and really make them stand out. So let me go ahead and try that so we could test it out and see. Okay, so here's our browns, and naturally I'm going to want a brown that has a little bit of orange in it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the rattlesnake. It's kind of like a brownish orange, and we're going to go ahead and test this out and see what happens. Okay, I have the rattlesnake, and we're going to test this out here and see if this makes a difference. I honestly think that the paper is not going to take any more layers. I'm laying this down here and trying to pull it down into that lighter color, and the color is laying down, but probably not as much as I would like to see. Okay, so over here it's working quite a bit, and I'm just going to lay it on these two petals and not all of them. Actually, maybe I'll lay a little bit right here to try to separate these two petals. But I don't feel like the color is going down the way that I would like it to, or the way that I would like to see it go down. Let me go ahead and grab my sundown. And it's definitely blending the colors out just a little, but not necessarily with ease. And definitely not like the Arrtx pencils did. But I think that's as good as we're gonna get with these. I think I'm just gonna straight color these with the gold dust, and then I'm probably gonna come back in with some stickles, because you all know how much I love stickles, and I cannot leave them out of a video, especially where I'm coloring in a Johanna Basford book. But I think those are super cute. Now I do think that we need a little bit of balance for this adorable little house. So I think that I'm going to keep the gold dust in hand, and I'm going to do something a little bit different with this little piece here that should be grass or some kind of dirt or whatever. And I think I'm going to use browns and make it look more like dirt, but I'm going to add a pop of color. So I'm going to try the gold dust and the rattlesnake together. Now they have a pretty big difference in the value of these two colors. Let me show you on the swatch chart. The rattlesnake is right here and the gold dust is right here. So you could see that there is a pretty big difference in the value of these two colors. And I am really going to test these out on this paper because I'm going to try to use just these two colors. I may need to come back and add some kind of mid-tone or something to really blend the colors together. But I really want to try to bring some balance to this little house by bringing some of the oranges down towards the bottom. And so I'm going to make this look kind of like it's dirt rather than grass. And then when I color these little leaves in right here, the little weeds on the side of the house, I'm going to color those in green. Okay, so let's really test this out. I am going to take my gold dust and I'm going to go over the whole entire thing. And I did that very, very lightly. Now I'm going to come in with the rattlesnake, and I'm going to use this super, super lightly because, like I said, there is a huge difference in value between these two colors, and I just want to see how this lays down right over. So I'm going to come here along the bottom of the house and try to create that depth and dimension that I want to see to separate those two pieces. And then I'm going to use it a little bit right here in the very bottom. And I'm going to sort of line this section here. I might need to add something that's a little bit more brown. I'm coming back with the gold dust. So the colors did blend together nicely. You can see here on this piece of grass where I use the Arrtx pencils, it does give it the look of having a little bit of texture to the grass. And if I look down here where I colored in this section, it does not have that same look. It just looks like the colors are laid down there. I don't feel like I was able to get the same effect with these flowers. I don't think I was able to get the same effect with the piece of grass down here or dirt. Let me go ahead and grab a darker brown and see if I can make this look a little bit better. Okay, I have the mahogany. Now remember, I don't have more than probably 3 layers down here. And I'm gonna go ahead and lay this mahogany down right over the top. Look at that, it is layering right over and it does look very nice. The colors are laying down, they are laying down nicely, but I am not able to get the extra depth that I really want to see. If you look at these two houses, one right up against the other, I feel like I can look at this and I'm much happier with it. And I have all that extra depth and dimension that I want. I was able to create that a lot better. And I was able to lay down the color layer after layer. I only used probably 4 to 5 layers on this house in each different section, and the colors still lay down very nicely. I was able to take darker colors and continue to keep layering them over the other colors. Let me go ahead and finish this off and grab some greens and color in these few little pieces of grass here. I think I want to use something up in here. And I'm definitely going to grab the forest because it's super, super dark and I feel like I haven't been able to create the amount of depth and dimension that I want to. Maybe I'll grab the forest and the olive green and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I have the forest and the olive green. I'm going to try the same thing that I did here on the roof where I laid a little bit of the darkest color and then tried to pull it up with the lighter color. I am going to lay the forest green at the top of each one of these leaves, and wow, that's going down nicely. And then I am going to take the olive green and go over that color and pull it down. And that actually worked out very, very nicely. I feel like these pencils are working much better in much smaller sections. Like they worked fabulously for this grass here. They worked really nicely when I was coloring in the stones right here, although this is just all one color. And then here when I did the roof, and then here in this little tiny piece where I colored the window in. So this technique though does seem to work much better also for these pencils, where you just lay a little bit of the color down and then pull it through. And when it didn't work with a much bigger difference in the value of the colors, I was able to bring that mid-tone in and the color would blend together a lot easier. So maybe just playing around with these a little bit more, I would get a much different outcome with them. But in these videos, I like to test out a couple different techniques like you've seen me do. I feel like that technique worked a lot better. So maybe if in these flowers I had laid a little bit of a much darker color up here in the top of the flower and then pulled it down, maybe it would have worked a little bit better. Let's go ahead and try the same technique in these skinny little stems on the flowers. So I'm going to lay my darkest color up in the top section. Now remember, this forest green is a super dark color and it seems to be very pigmented and it seems to be laying down very nicely. And I don't know if there also may be a inconsistency in some of the sets, because remember, all of these pencils are from different sets, and I do know that some people have noticed a difference in some of the older sets and how they perform compared to some of the newer sets and how they lay down in their coloring books. I've actually seen quite a few people mention that. But I feel like with these Black Widow pencils in this coloring book, they do work nicely, but I was not able to add as many layers as I was with the Arrtx pencils. When I used the Arrtx pencils, I was able to add layer after layer. I feel like the pencils, when I laid them down onto the paper, they laid down much more color on this particular paper than the Black Widows are. Now, these Black Widows in another coloring book, like World of Flowers, for instance, or other coloring books, I don't have that same experience. I have experience though where the Black Widows do not perform on certain papers in certain coloring books. And like when I have tried my Black Widows on my favorite paper, the Spring Hill paper, I do not like the way that they perform on the Spring Hill paper. So it's always very important to match your pencils to your paper to get the best performance out of any one particular colored pencil set. And I will say, so far, out of the 2 sets that I've tried in this coloring book, I would say the Arrtx do perform better than the Black Widows. They just perform very differently. When I lay the Black Widows down on the paper, they don't blend out as well as the Arrtx did. The Arrtx blended out with ease. The colors pulled down into one another. When the difference in the values of the colors, like around the little door frame here, didn't work the way that I wanted to, I just grabbed another color, and it was a super easy fix. And trying to do my little fixes when experimenting with the Black Widows, they were a little bit more difficult. I still don't feel like I have the depth and dimension I need in these flowers. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do is just lay a little bit of stickles right here in the top of each one of these flowers, just to add a little bit of something to them. This is the grapefruit, and it's a super pretty color. It's like a bright melon color with little flicks of gold in it. It's so super pretty. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this onto the tops of each one of these flowers. Oh, how pretty that is. Now see, that made a huge difference for me. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my Posca, and I'm going to put a few little yellow dots in that little window right there. Okay, so I have my glitter Posca, and I'm gonna grab the yellow one. I just got these and they are so much fun, but I'm gonna use the yellow glitter just to put a little dot of color inside the windows. But look how cute that is. And maybe a little bit down here, and go over these areas where I don't feel like the colors blended together the way that I wanted them to. I will say I'm happy with the way that this turned out. I'm just not completely satisfied, and I don't feel like I should have to come back and make little fixes like adding the stickles and going over this bottom area to go over where the colors didn't blend together the way that I wanted to. Like I said, I have heard many people say that there is inconsistencies in the different sets. I've never felt it before, and I really wasn't paying attention to which sets which pencils came out of as I was coloring the little house. But I will say that a lot of these blues that I used performed much better than the pinks did. And I know that plum pudding is from one of the newer sets. That is one of my favorite shades, but I don't feel like the plum pudding laid down the way that it should on this paper. And I don't feel like the colors blended out the way that I would like them to. But I do love my little house. I love the colors. And as far as the oranges that I used and all of the colors I used and all of the fixes I came back and tried to do with my little flowers up there, I still am not happy with those flowers. Overall, if I had to choose one out of the 2, of course it would be the Arrtx. But I will say that I just absolutely love using my Black Widows in World of Flowers. So I hope this video was helpful in helping y'all choose which pencil set you want to pair with Johanna Basford's Small Victories. I absolutely love this coloring book, but so far in this coloring book, the 2 pencils I've discovered work the absolute best are the Prismacolors. Of course, they work well in probably every single coloring book. And the Arrtx worked beautifully. You'll have to let me know in the comments below what pencils you would like to see me test. I hope y'all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Happy coloring. Bye.